Abani Gani, everyone. This is Professor Rahh, Professor Emeritus, California State University of Long Beach, former city councilman for the city of Compton, former Compton College Board of Trustee, and Compton Unified School District Board of Trustees, co-founder of the Black World Institute, a video and audio library of speeches and cultural events of African American people all over the world. I want to just welcome you here to the Conscious Corner. That is a platform provided by Community Education Network for us to have a video cast in which we discuss critical things that is affecting the African American community. I want to introduce the panel this evening, a very strong panel of various individuals with various perspectives from across the country. First, we start with Brother Mshinda out of Louisiana, longtime activist, as an astute scholar in the area of community and social activities, and as he's worked and built a strong understanding of himself, his society, and the world. We have Brother Ernest McBride, who is the historian and archivist of the Ernest McBride Sr. Legacy of Long Beach, and really one of the pioneers of the civil rights movement. As they fought for civil rights in Long Beach, it affected other local communities to also work for their civil rights. They took a conservative community in Long Beach and liberalized it to the point in which they gained political, economical, and social power, led by Ernest McBride Sr., when he was the first, formed the first NAACP and the Optical Association. And he's an outstanding person that's revered in the Long Beach community. We also have Brother Rahh out of Detroit, giving us that East Coast flavor of the Motor City, where he's an astute scholar and thinker of what's going on in Detroit, in that community out there in the Midwest, Mideast, wherever it is. He's a traveler, and we deeply appreciate his input and deep thinking, as well as Brother Rashaki Maskani, longtime activist, alumni of Cal State Long Beach, and where he played basketball, but at the meantime has transformed into a conscious educator of our people, stressing the community education network for us to each one teach one, and strong, deep thinker and critical questions about what's going on in the world. And we want to welcome you again here to the Brother Pruitt is here, longtime activist of the reparation movement, where he's provided various positions on how to get our reparations, and he'll be presenting again on our platform. He's already did about 3 or 4 shows on reparations, and we're going to have him here again. And so we want to welcome you here, where you found your family in a peaceful place. We wish all of you blessings without numbers and all good things without end who view this video. We're going to talk a little bit about the Black psychology. A lot of people question it, and they say all people have the same psychology. They learn from the environment. It's either hereditary, as far as intelligence and behavior, or either through environmental. But I'm going to start with the brother Ernest McBride. Ernest, do you believe that there's such a unique aspect to Black psychology, or you think all humans have the same neurological and mental capacity when it comes to influencing their behavior? Is there such a thing as Black psychology?
It's kind of a tough question, because I think people are probably basically they're the same, but when you learn certain things from society, then you form your own thoughts. And
Mm.
and, and just like Brother Waru was saying about, people, we ought to wake up and all and move to Africa. See, well, that's never going to happen because people not going to do that, because they fought and struggled to get where they are today and to get the things they got today. And and it's just gonna, it seems to me like I'm a lifetime I've seen things just kind of repeat themselves. We just go through cycles and they'll do, but then when you start looking at this stuff like this Facebook and YouTube and how people are something the stupidest thing and they'll latch on to that, man, and rave over that. And then I wonder, well, what's wrong with those people? But there probably is a great number of people in society that you use psychology and guide them and bend them, because like this, I think that's what happened this last election. The reason we got this guy we got now,
Mm-hmm.
because this guy's not a good politician. Nowhere is he, qualified to be in that office that he's in, but he's in there.
Well,
So when you start thinking, well, how did this happen? So somehow or another, they tricked a lot of people into voting on him. So,
well, uh, Dr. Naeem Akbar,
yeah,
who wrote the book, The Psychology of Self, and uh, he always called it democratic insanity. Uh,
uh-huh,
what he meant was that no matter what your behavior, no matter how crazy you act, if the majority of the people vote that it's sane, it's all right, it's
yeah,
okay. Yeah, and that's what they call democratic insanity. So a lot of people voted for him because they're just as crazy as he is, but they
yeah,
think they're sane. You
uh-huh,
talk to a voter, he don't think that he did wrong voting for a felon or voting with 39 felonies or a person that's been convicted civilly of sexual abuse, or a person that led an insurrection. Again, they think it's okay.
yeah,
The
yeah,
majority of the people, they don't think they self is crazy, but everybody else in the world do. Most
yeah,
people.
yeah. So,
All right,
so,
brother Ahi, are you there, Ahi?
Yeah, now we're talking about black psychology, Professor,
Yeah.
or
Do
black
you?
psychiatry.
Huh?
Are we talking about black psychiatry or black psychology?
Either, all of them. They all interacted and interrelated. You can't have a
combination.
black psychiatry without black psychology. And you can't have a
Well,
black psychiatry without black psychology.
well, I know. Well, for sure, there's black psychology because psychology is basically a study of our behavior and
Yeah.
why we behave that way.
Yeah.
Psychiatry is more of a medical thing. It's
Yeah.
can get into a more chemical thing. Um,
Hmm.
yes, yes, they are. Like you said, psychiatry examines the psychology, which is learned behavior that we have here. And as far as I've been a witness, we're not in our right minds, so we have to
I'm
study
asking you,
that.
do you think there's a distinction between all human beings' psychology? Because we developed a class called Black Psychology at Cal State Long Beach. And most people said there's no such thing as that. All humans have the same psychology. They just are influenced by different things. But I want to get your position on, is there such a thing as Black psychology? Or how would you frame it, the psychology of Blacks or ethnopsychology or whatever, however
Well,
you see it? And what would be
well,
the basis of how you define
gee, this is something that I would have to study. I
it?
know. I would, in order to really say anything intelligent or to even ask an intelligent question. This is
Yeah.
something I would really have to sit down and listen to the black psychologists. So we must because our scholars say there's a Black psychology.
Some
I
of
mean, there's no question about that. We have scholars that say there is Black psychology. Our experiences, even they say it's caused by different stimuli. Okay, well, your stimuli is a little different from mine. So why not? Why isn't it there a Black psychology if there is our stimuli that affects the Black community as a group and not necessarily other groups? So I mean, that's just off the top of my head. But
okay, that's good. Mshinda, what about you? You there, Mshinda?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think Black psychology is a term, so psychology was a term before Black psychology, so you study, the study, if you study in psychology as it relates to Black people, we have our own experience, our own cultural relevance, spirituality and so forth, so I think that the scholars that study Black psychology, those who present Black psychology, it's pertaining to the Black experience, it's particularly in America, you know. So, if you talk about Black psychology and African nations and things like that, there's some there's cultural differences and over there as well. So, but I think it's relevant. I think it's nothing wrong with it. You said that they say there's no such thing. I think there is a such thing. I think that there's nothing wrong with uh, studying, the effects of the environment, studying the effects of, just what we're confronted with on a daily basis. On this show we like to talk about white supremacy, racism, and so uh like Brother he said, we're not in our right minds, because we're in the struggle. We're trying to. I mean, we're evolving. We're constantly evolving to that. To I guess to where we should be. That's what we talk about. Some people talk about moving back to Africa, or just basically becoming more conscious and having an influence on people. You know, uh, making them aware historically what has happened so it won't repeat itself. At the same time, using that reference to understand what's going on, to be a conscious, have a conscious mind in the struggle and trying to make good, trying to make positive change in society. So, but yeah, I think that, we're afflicted as a people in more ways than one. I tell people every now and then, I say, I wonder if I have PTSD. You know, that's a psychological phrase. PTSD, post-traumatic stress, syndrome or whatever. So it's kind of like, uh, growing up where I grew up. I heard gunfire every night. Seemed like as a teenager, and you hear it around the city. Different things. What you're confronted with when you go to school as a kid. Especially in those years of junior high school, riding the buses and just interacting in the community. So it has an effect on our psychology. So how we survive that. So we need to study that. We need to, because when you study Black psychology, then you understand what's being experienced, among us. Therefore, maybe we can come up with solutions, and a lot of folks have imparted solutions, so, as it relates to us. So, but anyway, hey, it's a real thing.
Okay, good. Brother Pruitt, you have a comment?
Oh, yes, sir. How you doing this evening, sir?
All right.
Oh, good. Okay. I was listening to what Brother Ahi said as far as studying psychology and psychiatry being related to one another. And I graduated from UCLA with a degree in sociology. And Brother Ahi is right about that, because sociology and psychology and psychiatry, they are all interrelated. And Black people do have a separate and identifiable psychology because of all the racism and oppression that we have had to endure and that we are still suffering from. So we want to make sure that we get everybody into a position to where we consider, like Brother Rashaki said, the mental conditioning of our people, and see if we can come up to some solution as to where how we can get our people back into the right frame of mind. Because like Brother Ahi and Brother Mshinda say, our people are not in our right minds. It would do us a world of good if we would start taking some steps into the direction to look towards spiritual guidance for that specific goal, because Black people do need to have a mental transformation to see that we need to come together. Because like you were saying on a previous program I was listening to, the chaos that's going on in Haiti is indicative of what's going on in some small ghettos in America and in other parts of Africa. So there is an assault going on against Black people today. Even like you said earlier, Professor Rahh, they even trying to erase the history of our people, of our Black heroes and sheroes, and special events that have happened to Black people. Now they trying to say something about removing or eliminating some African American museums. And I mean, Black people need to wake up, just like Brother Mshinda say. It's time for Black people to try to wake up and start using our brain and thinking and reading and becoming a more intellectual people as opposed to a more people who want to listen and take orders and be subservient to anybody else. Time for Black people to stand up and be leaders. Like Marcus Garvey said, uh, some of us will want to go back to Africa, but like the brother said earlier, Brother Ernest said, most Black people will not want to go back to Africa because they have become comfortable and familiar with living here in integration in America. But there are some people living in Africa that have beautiful homes, they live in nice places, and they have good relationship with the native people there. And that's something that we can grow on and expound on, and we plan on doing that with ARS reparations. But I thank you so much, Professor Rock, because it is time for Black people to start using our brains and thinking of something that can liberate us from this oppression that we're still faced with today. And I thank you so very much, sir, for hosting this program.
All right. Thank you. Brother Rashaki?
Yeah, a lot of great things have been said as far as Black psychology. I just put up the Google AI version of what they were talking about. They mentioned Bobby Wright. Definitely in a society that's, you know, that's predicated on color, is I call it the color context strategy. And so when you're, subjugated like this and partitioned and all of that, you definitely are psychologically affected by your condition. So most definitely there's a Black psychology in a multifaceted racial society. So most definitely.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for their comments, and I'm just going to give you a brief perspective. I've had I was a professor of Black psychology at Cal State Long Beach for years, and I also taught general psychology at Compton College for years. And they had different classes in psychology and different perspectives, as all of y'all have said. And when it comes down to the, in general psychology, they always like to measure your psychology in the context of the Caucasian. And that's how they measure your intelligence. And that's why they, many Blacks said the intelligence tests were biased because they didn't speak to the influence or the environment that Black people grew up in or the uniqueness of them. There's so many dynamics, so many great psychologists that have written books, and they have the Association Association of Black Psychologists that formed in 1968 in the movement, and they had strong Black people that was a part of that. Amos Wilson, Bobby Wright, and a number of other people, Dr. Naeem Akbar, all psychologists, Francis Cress-Welching, who was a child psychiatrist, and a bunch of people that did unique studies, because the system, when we first started Black Studies and developed our own curriculum, I think William Guthrie in his book, Even the Rats Were White, talked about the fact that most studies for diseases and behavior were done on white rats and mainly white people. From an albinism standpoint, you have a number of scholars that say, the European says that 80% of your learning, there's two modes of influence of your behavior. 80% is genetic, inherited, hereditary. You get it from your genealogical makeup and influences of your parents, from their biological and psychological meaning, as Ahi was saying, from a psychiatry standpoint. Then there's the environmentalists who say that 80% of your behavior is turned by your environment. A lot of people used to say it's not Black psychology, it's the psychology of Blacks. And they tried to take that we do not have a unique psychology. But Dr. Amos Wilson, in the psychological development of the Black child, speaks to that. And Malachi Andrews, who wrote the book Psycho-Blackology, as well as a number of Robert Williams in his collection of scholars that wrote on Black psychology in his book Black Psychology, and of course Dr. Joe White and Dr. Ernest or Dr. Parham, who's now the president of Cal State Dominguez. They wrote a book, Black Psychology, and there have been a lot of books written on Black psychology, volumes 1, volumes 2. And it speaks to the fact that when Dr. Ernie Smith came out with the Ebonics, he was attacked because most middle-class Blacks didn't want to say that there was such a thing as black linguistical patterns. But Dr. Ernie Smith did a resounding study and debate with white scholars and showed the uniqueness of our speaking and what he called cultural retentions from our genealogical makeup of being Africans, where certain sounds were just not and the whole purpose of Ebonics was to get them to teach us English as a second language, the same way they taught bilingual to the Latinos, that we came up and certain sounds with our words, instead of flunking us and saying we mispronouncing words or we leaving out letters at the end or the beginning of words. That's what Ernest Smith was about. But people like Morgan Freeman and she'd be on The View, the sister that be on The View, dark sister with the braids and stuff. I can't think of her name. Whoopi Goldberg. They attack everybody. We don't want to learn Ebonics. We want to learn proper English and things of that nature. But Ernie Smith, Dr. Ernie, we called him Sweet Ernie. He was a professor, full-time professor at Cal State Fullerton, and then he became a professor at Drew Medical. But at the same time, he was one of the foremost, along with Robert Williams, introduced the concept of Ebonics. But many Black people were influenced by those middle-class Black people who said that we shouldn't argue to be taught to teach Ebonics. And it wasn't about teaching Ebonics. It was about teaching us English as a second language and not punishing us for how we were raised in our environment. As Ernest said, we learn to speak what is spoken and heard. And if we're around our parents and they say, go fetch me this your hair over yonder, that's how we learn from our environment. And we learn to speak that way. The same thing with behavior. Many people say that as Amos Wilson said in his book, Psychological Development of the Black Child, you have a lot of people say, I don't understand today's children. And his argument was that if you don't understand them, it's because you haven't studied them and you haven't listened to them and you haven't really dealt with their uniqueness and how they see things. You have people saying that today. What's wrong with today's generation? And there's some issues that we're going to go into, because one of the hardest things that people are finding is how to relate to the young people and get them to be more productive in the home, in the community, and in the world, instead of trying to get Disneyland tickets and concert tickets while the world is on fire, because we're in what we call difficult, dangerous, and times today, while the world is, you got young people that don't care what's going on in Gaza. They don't care what's going on in Black communities. Right now, the Trump administration is sending military to Washington, D.C. Now, a lot of people think he's there for policing, but it could be there for other reasons. And as far as you saying that we won't go back to to Africa, what if they start putting you out and sending you back? You understand? See, that's a whole new different thing. And the Asians didn't think they put them in concentration camps. And the Latinos didn't think that they would get put back and sent to prisons in different areas for just being in. And remember, being here illegal is a misdemeanor, and they're putting people in prisons. You understand? But that's different from Black psychology. Black psychology, as Rashaki put up, is the study of Black behavior and what's unique influences. And our environment is more prevalent to our influence. I remember Dr. Shockley and Dr. Bell came up with that we were intellectually inferior, and that our natural intelligence was below that of Europeans, no matter what. And they often argued that our Black women in the South need to be sterile so that they don't produce ignorant kids. I don't know if y'all remember that, but that's what Shockley, they call it the Shockley theory. And we had many debates about that. And the bell curve is about the saying that the intelligent testers were not racist, that we were the cause of our failure to pass it at a level in which they could measure our intelligence in comparison to the same schemes they measure white intelligence. So as a professor of Black psychology, one of the difficult things to do is that to teach young people that their behavior is unique if they practice their cultural values and learn from their culture. But that a lot of their behavior is based on them learning from the European culture, which is what they call major environmental influence on their behavior. We dress like them, we comb our hair like them. You see all these Black women on TV with these added hair going all the way down their back and things of this nature. You see brothers, even hip hop is a European thing. It's not from the African culture. It's not from an Afrocentric perspective. This is just something that is caused by two things. The psychology, what they call the psychological dynamics of self, of the psychological dynamics of self. And then, most kids do what they feel now. If they feel like playing games all day, they do that. If they feel like, well, I'm a man with a penis, but I want to be a girl. There's a woman trapped in me. That's the way they feel, and they act it out. But naturally, you have a penis and testicles. You're male, but I feel like I'm a girl, so they act it out. And this same thing. That's that individual aspect of looking out how I feel. If I feel like I want to be a gang member, that's what I feel. I'm gonna tell you, gang members are influenced by the whole society. This whole the influence of street gangs in the Black community come from the white community. All you have to do is look at the history of gangs. Columbus them was a gang. The Pilgrims were a gang. The first explorers here were gang members. They robbed, steal, and took. And they came here looking for riches and new ways of life. And they took the riches and implanted their way of life. And that's why they wiped out the Native American and enslaved us. And for hundreds of years, and even to this day, they will not admit that that was criminal activity. The biggest human traffic aspect in history was the enslaving Black people, taking them from Africa, and then create the lie we sold ourselves in. And people believe it. I ain't saying a few people may have traded in the beginning, but they ended up coming over here. And why would you pay for you may pay people, catch people for you, things of this nature. We got Black people that sell each other dope. Do that mean all of us sell dope? That we all are dope fiends because a few people take it and a few people sell it? We got people that kill people. Are we all murderers? There are people that are pedophiles, Black people. You understand? One youngster. You understand? No, that's not right. The majority of us are not into that behavior. And the majority of Africans were not sold by other Africans. They were captured and brought here. That's what the whole door of no return is about. You understand? And why? And they didn't know those that did do the selling. Like you sell dope, you don't know people going OD. You don't know where they're going and what they was being subject to. For that participation. But anyway, getting back to behavior, how we explain the behavior of African Americans today? You understand? What is their major influence? Why do they behave the way they behave? There was a time, Ernest, when we didn't think Black people did mass killing or killed their children or committed suicide. We thought that was a white boy thing. Do you remember that, Ernest? Have you ever thought about that part? That the majority of people at one time we thought was just white people killing themselves because they didn't get as far as they thought they could. You understand? And the same thing with mass murders. We always said that was a white boy that did that. And today, statistics say the majority of mass killings are white. But at the same time, you have Black people that went to the service, come back with PSD, whatever that disturbance, and they may commit mass murder. And you have some Black people that are getting white social diseases. So we've left our natural behavior is the psychology of social self, where we relate to each other. We relate to each other. We saw ourselves as a part of a community. We saw ourselves as a part of a family. And our behavior was in context of not embarrassing the family and not going against the family, mothers and fathers, with our behavioral directives. And so, but the point is that you have young people today that have grown up in foster home, placement home, homeless in the streets after they reach 18, and they become into behaviors of survival. Survival has behaviors like a kid in the swimming pool or in the ocean drowning, and you go try to help him, and he end up drowning you because he's panicking, trying to hold on to you. And that's the same thing with the streets. Now, Black people hustle because that's an opportunity. I mean, listen, when you're on the streets, and matter of fact, the gang members used to say this, and the criminals, I'm putting in work. Even though their work was selling drugs, robbing, stealing, counterfeit, money anyway. I'm putting in work. That's my hustle. You understand? That's my hustle. There are other people that just went and got a job to pay for their families and things of this nature. But when you hustling, you don't have to fill out no application. There's no drug test. There's nothing. That's just you learning how to get around in the environment that you're in. And a lot of your behavior is going to hurt your own people because you're more comfortable doing it in your own community with your own people. You understand? Because you can get away. You know the environment. You know how to do it. You know the vibe of the community, the rhythm of the community. So you can sell drugs and get away from it as an added income or supplemental income and have a job. And people won't even know you're selling drugs because you know how to do it. They're not get caught. And it's just a lot of dynamics that go into our behavior. But it's like Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, the white man is guilty of everything bad except for being righteous. Understand? And that and it's hard to say that because many of our family members are interracial now, and they've been all throughout life. All animals and human beings have always interacted sexually and mated sexually. White horses and black horses have always screwed. Different colored chickens have always screwed. Different monkeys, different colored butterflies did their thing. Different colored fish. They always mate. And you have to accept that. But, and even us, the white people say they hate black people, but they got black clothes in their closet. You understand? You got white people that say, I hate black so much I sleep with my lights on. I mean, you got all kind of behaviors. You got to separate prejudice from racism. Being prejudiced is to another human being based on color is because you get away with it because the system is racist, meaning the institutions protect you to practice that. That's what Trump did when he wouldn't sell property to black people. You understand? His father and them. You understand? And the institution knew he was doing that. Even Judge, there was one of the Supreme Court judges who had in his deed a property in San Francisco that do not sell my property to a black person or a Jew. This was a white man on the Supreme Court. He had it written. And when they confirmed him as the Chief Justice, because he said his attorney added that, he didn't. Like he didn't know what his attorney added. I mean, I'm just telling you. And they have that today. They have that today. You know what I'm saying? The xenophobia aspect of being afraid of people that don't look like you. The fundamental question, why do white people kill and destroy black people and they ain't done nothing to them? You understand? They haven't done nothing. I mean, as far as building institutions to live their life, it's one thing to not like a person because they're black. It's another thing to create laws, privileges, and customs to affect their lives because they're black. That's a whole new different thing. You understand? Like I told him on the steps of the Compton courthouse on the Latasha Carlin case, where the Asian lady shot and killed Latasha Carlin over orange juice that she was paying for. And the lady shot her in the back of the head. The jury found the lady guilty. But the judge, Sherlin, whatever her name was, gave her probation, gave the Asian woman probation, even after the jury found her guilty. And I came out and said, racism wasn't the fact that the Asian shot Latasha. Racism was the court that let her go for doing it and not putting a premium on her life. So when we deal with behavior, it's like this. You got multitude of issues today to the point that it polarizes many black people and they don't want to hear about problems. If it ain't good news, they don't want to hear about it. And they don't want to recognize problems because that means you have to do something about it. You understand? Once you recognize there's a problem, if with yourself, with your children, with your grandchildren, with anyone, then you try to intervene to correct it. And sometimes you got people who you give good advice to, and they get insulted. You know, I mean, that's a behavior dysfunction. You understand? You can't tell me nothing. What do you mean I can't tell you nothing? Yeah, I'm your father. I'm your mother. You know, you don't understand what's going out there in the streets. I don't. You understand? You know, I mean, these are the behavior of young people. You know, you got kids that Google rather than talk to their parents. If they want to have a problem, they Google. So they're cyberspace kidnapped mentally. You understand? And you have to sort of like recapture the social interaction and tell them always, you can Google, but always check with a human or someone you love. You understand? I mean, there are people that's getting took every day off commercials on the computer. You know, it makes your penis harder for 20 days. Just comes just get this salt and get this pastry, and it's gonna clean out your system, because that's why you can't get your penis up, because of bacteria in your testosterone, and we got the stuff to clean it out. And they go send them $250 and get a bunch of bottles of nothing but vitamins. And then then rip them off by putting them on that you subscribe to it. And they look up and their credit card been charged 5 times before they can cut it off. I'm just telling you the game. You understand? And so behavior, the best behavior is human to human, not machine to human. All this AI stuff, oh yeah, that's for you. That's the Caucasian creating that. You understand? You got to know it so that you don't get ripped off. Like we say in the streets, if you don't know how to play cards or shoot dice, don't play it. If you can't remember your point, please don't shoot dice. You understand? I mean, that's the same thing. You know, before you learn, if you don't know how to cheat at the game, you don't know the game, because you don't know when you're being cheated. You understand? So it's a deep perspective. But getting back to our behavior, yes, our behavior is unique genetically. In Thomas Brokaw's special on ABC, and he talked like the black athlete, super athlete, a myth. And he came up. He said he went to Africa, and he saw some black children that were the same age as white children. And these children were more mature at an early age at birth, coming up through birth, than white kids. It's a white man saying this. You understand? That, you know, they were looking around, they were more alert at the 1-year-old, 2-year-old, way advanced than the white kid in America, or white kid, period. You understand? This is what he said. And he said, why they are faster than people that play what they call major sports, why they're able to run faster, the sprints, and why they're able to jump higher in basketball and things of nature, is because of their buoyancy, but their muscle structure. And that's what Malachi Andrews was talking about in the black psycho. I'll get the name of it in a minute. But Malachi Andrews, in his study of the kinesiology of black people, they say our bones are different, our energy is different. When it comes down to certain sports, we can perform better because of our physical structure. Look what's going on in football. For years, they wouldn't let us play. Now they let us play. Look what's happening. We're 80% of the damn football people. You understand? And now, remember the days, Ernest, when they wouldn't let us be quarterback? You couldn't think you could be center or linebacker, middle linebacker, or quarterback. Middle linebacker is the one they call defense plays. You couldn't handle the ball. And remember in basketball, they always had a little white guard playing with the black people. You understand? I mean, that because they felt that they were more intelligent. And that's what they used to say. You know, he's athletic. They used to tell me when I was coming along, because I was very articulate at an early age. And I would speak at rallies at the college. And white folks would say, I had a glib tongue. Like my tongue ain't hooked up to my brain. You understand? I just got a fast tongue. You understand? No. Well, because I got a fast brain too. Shit. I mean, my tongue is messed up. It's hooked up to my brain. So if I say something intelligent, it ain't because I got a glib tongue or a quick tongue. It's because my mind worked that way. But they don't give you that credit. You understand what I'm saying? It's like Martin Luther King March on Washington. They changed it from a march to cash or blank check to a blank check for social justice, employment, and economic. That's what he said in the speech. It wasn't until the end of the speech that he went into this dream because Mahalia Jackson asked him to say it because she had heard that I had the dream speech before. Tell him about the dream, Martin. You can hear her in the background.
Yes, sir.
And she was the one that influenced him to say that. And they changed it to a dream. But Martin Luther King march there was you look at the beginning of the march. Why was they marching to Washington? Because of civil rights violations. They wasn't marching there to go talk about a dream. But the European now, Walmart, Target, all of them put up the dream, Martin Luther King dream. No, Martin Luther King was an activist. He was a social change person, you see. So the dynamics of us as a human being, and this is why we're out of slavery today, because our mentality was if a dog can run free, no matter how much I was chained and almost beaten to be subservient and think that the same person, if he beat a horse or beat another human that way, a dog or a cat, they'll put him in jail. But they could beat us, poison us, because they didn't see us as human. But as our ancestors, as the black people that got here and was enslaved, they saw birds flying free, and they saw other animals running free. They said, why ain't I free? And that's what started them to escape and to rebel against their captivity, because they knew that this was, the white man tried to convince them in the Bible and in studies that they were meant to be their slaves. You ever hear that? Any of you ever heard that?
Yeah, that's terrible.
It's in the Bible. You're supposed to serve your master. You know, the book of Cain about King Cain and all of that. You know, there was, I mean, you got to be able to differentiate. Like Rashaki always say, you know, our oppressor can't be our teacher. You understand? Now, when I went to Cal State, I graduated in sociology too, Pruitt. My BA is in sociology. I was the only athlete that graduated on time with this class and was an honor student.
Okay.
But when I got into Black studies, I had to retrain and re-educate myself. I had to read books, study. I had never been a professor. I didn't even dream of being a professor. I thought I was going to be a professional basketball player or a street hustler. Those were my goals in life. You know, I went to college to play basketball until I saw the politics of how they treated Black athletes and their exploitation. Yes. And so I said, I better get, and a brother told me, he said, listen, if you can hustle out there in the streets, at that time my name was Sleepy, he said, well, let me see you go steal a degree from the white folk. And that's what I did. You understand? And I hustled and got my grades right and graduated on time, even though I set out a whole semester. So my point is that, yes, we are unique. Our behavior is unique. Our behavior is unique. Our whole understanding is unique. How we walk, our rhythm, our talk, how we see the world when we're in our natural self. But when you become acculturated by Europeans, you see the world the way white folks train you to see it. You understand? And that's the dynamics of that. All
Professor,
right. Yeah.
was that psycho-blackology that you was talking about?
Yeah, psychoblackology.
Okay. Uncle Malachi.
Yeah, Malachi Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, anybody want to respond? If I'm wrong, rescue me. As Maulana say. Will you have any response, Brother Ernest? You there? You're on mute, Ernest.
Trying to digest, everything that you taking in, because I think I was brought up in almost a white world, because like I went to grammar school. There was maybe about two other black kids besides me, and then I come up
Go ahead.
through there, got in junior high, and I met a few more blacks, and then most of the ones that I meet, they were from southern states, and I was born here, and we just kind of thought differently. But they and they tell me about stories, them raising up, and I'll say, I don't know if don't look like to me it was that bad. And then, but my dad was from the South, Mississippi, and then my mom was from Texas, and my dad always taught me, well, hey, you as good as the next guy, probably better than most of them. And then my mom always said, well, always try to be prepared. When you're on a job, if you expect promotion or something, be prepared for it. And then I kind of hired in jobs, and I ran into jobs where I knew they were discriminating against me. But
you keep freezing,
I tried to.
You're freezing.
You found ways to defeat that, because, like my dad said, they got Fair Employment Practice Commission. So a lot of these industry around there, like North American and Autonetics, man, I filed claims against them and turned around, and they had to hire me, and then I turned them down because I said, well, I'm gonna go on with the government because I don't want to be out there constantly fighting. But then when I got in the government, it was kind of the same thing. You'd apply for something, we were always kind of the last ones to get it. And then one of my brothers named Nate Station filed a federal lawsuit against some man, and then I happened to be in the right place at the right time, and then and got all kind of promotions. So I always thought, and I hear guys talk about stuff that happened to them on the jobs, and I just couldn't, I just had a hard time digesting that, because nothing like that had ever happened to me. I had no personal experiences like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
kind of like I was always kind of in the dark, because if I didn't apply for something and I didn't get it, I found a way to put pressure on them by trying to file discrimination suits against them. And I know other people had to fight hard for us to even get these laws so that we could file a suit.
Yeah.
So I, kind of took advantage of a lot of that. And then I got no kind of, bad things to say about the job, but I knew there was prejudice. And like you say, as a black guy, you come on a job, and then in a matter of a week, who's prejudiced and who's not, on that job, because everybody.
But the job allowed them to be prejudiced, and the job created an environment where prejudice could flourish. But let me just go, Brother. You have any response?
Well, after you, Professor, certainly, and after Brother Ernest, that would be like bringing an apple to a banquet. So I just go ahead and just pass on to the next brother. Thank you, brother.
All right, Brother Pruitt, do you have any comment?
Just one comment you said about the environment. Because I remember when I was at UCLA doing our studies, one term that they used quite often was that environment does shape heredity. So apparently they've been knowing it the psychology of Black people has been affected and influenced by all of the harm and all the racism and oppression that we have had to face. So we want to do something to counteract that, but definitely put some thinking into the process so we can develop some solutions to cure this mental trauma that we have.
Mm-hmm. Well, uh, when you go to predominantly white schools like UCLA, Long Beach, and things of this nature, what we did in Long Beach was we carved out space so that we could be Black and be Afrocentric. That's what the movement was about. And at
Right.
UCLA, they used to have a Black newspaper. They have a
And a Black
strong Black
student union. Right.
something, I forget the name of it. And at SC, you form your own. Most people want to be around people that they look alike and feel that they identify with.
Right.
And like what Ernest was saying, that most of our parents raised us that we had to be 10 times smarter than white people in
Right.
order to make it, and that they can't take away your intelligence. They can do anything, but they can't take away your book knowledge. And I'm pretty sure that's what motivated you too, Cliff, when you went to play ball for predominantly. I went to play ball for a predominantly white school, and that's mainly because there was no Black colleges out here other than community colleges in California for the most
Right.
part, 4-year Division I and/or even Division II or III. Even all the major universities were either D2 or D1, and we just went and played. But you had the opportunity to go further because you went to a well-known school to get a higher visibility. But the structure is that once you know where you are, know who you are, it don't matter where you are. And what Ernest did was be able to fight off discrimination to achieve his goals by fighting. There's so many
Right.
Black people who won't fight.
Right.
And you got a whole generation that's coming up that will tell you they don't experience racism and that we all are the same people and we all just ought to treat each other right. They don't see that European has a psychological problem as far as wanting to dominate the world. Why would you build all kind of bombs and then bomb people?
Yeah.
And kill people. Thousands of miles away from you. They don't even pose a threat to you. You just want their resources and
That's
land.
exactly right.
Why would you have 25,000 troops in Africa? For what? You understand?
The resources. That's right.
And the same thing with sending all these military people to D.C. and Black cities with Black mayors. You understand? What you finna start capturing? They did. They took a brother that was a police officer and sending him back. He had to deport himself. You understand? Because you be thinking things ain't happening to you, and you be thinking that white folks wouldn't do this. But these are the people that dropped the atom bomb, the neutral bomb, three atom bombs on the Japanese. And they built the bomb for Hitler. They didn't build a bomb for the Japanese. They finished it, and then they put it on, dropped it on the Japanese, but they never dropped it on Germany. You understand? So you gotta look at that. Just study the history of the bomb, and it'll tell you that. We're in challenging times, very, very challenging times. And being able to think outside the European acculturation process to make you think like you white, think like you don't have no problems and that, I only get mad when something happened to me and things of that nature. But Rashaki, you have a comment?
No, Rob, it's basically you told us a lot this evening, and everybody else chimed in, and I thought it was entertaining too. Some of the things you were saying. So yeah, I mean it's quite evident if you just if people would take out time to look at what's going on, at people's behavior, at their behavior, study a self-study, self-evaluation, studying your environment. If people took out time just to do some things like that, you know, it would, your psychology can actually be modified. You can start changing the way you see things and think and act. So it's you know, if people wasn't so instinctual and just take on their characteristics of their environment, if they did some studying, like I said, they would see that some of the things that they're doing, some of the things that other people are doing is incorrect. And then they could start doing something about it. I think you said something about if only you could see it, then you could do something about it. A lot of people are not able to see it because they're psychologically damaged, trauma. It's just, you know, environment. What I've been saying lately is, you know, your mind is very precious, it's delicate, and you know, if you don't protect it, or if you don't have the ability to protect it, you're just gonna go along to get along. And it's interesting, very interesting. And one thing I've done is I was able to place myself in environments of learning and intellectual centers and be around people like you guys to be able to enhance my thinking. So you also have a choice to improve yourself. So there's a lot, you know, the psychological edge is another thing that a lot of people don't even ascribe to. You have to have a psychological edge in order to motivate, self-motivate, and things like of that nature. So it's a heck of a dynamic dealing with the mind. You're on a mute, yeah.
It's a challenge, man, to work with people. Machines you can work with. You can cut them off. You can program them. And there's no resistance. There may be some technical issues you can't figure out. But human beings is hard to work with. And to build organizations, if you haven't tried to build organizations or mobilize people, then you get frustrated because you say, why won't we come together? Why won't we do this? Instead of looking at the world and see that the most people in the world don't come together. You understand? There's only few people that are able to come together and put their resources together to become a power group that takes over the rest of the people because they didn't come together. I mean, that's why we used to start off our group in positiveness. What's good about Black people? I had to learn that from the Carl Eder Center, that we talk about what's good, what we're doing good. Because the European is going to plaster the media, the environment, and even plant it in the minds of our people to just talk bad about ourselves. You know, Black people ain't doing this. Black people doing not this. Not looking at all the beautiful things that we are doing. You understand? And the resistant movement. How Black people are resisting oppression and self and that dynamic. So it's a very important aspect of life that we have to go through and become a part of. Instead of being clear, I had to learn that I used to just didn't like white people. We used to just walk up to them, fire on them, beat them up, take their money, do what they had to do. Then I learned from the Culture Center that I need to just love our people, forgive them for what they don't know or for what they do, and just think positive of those that are doing positive things. Read about the man McLeod Bethune, who built the Bethune-Cookman College with in Florida with no money. And read about the Harriet Tubman, who with the Underground Railroad, and they put $1 million, what was equivalent to $1 million a day bounty on it, and nobody turned their own. Read about Nat Turner, who was spiritually motivated to liberate our people than Mark Vesey, and read about Malcolm X, and read about Black women and Black men and children that stood. And you know, most of our people don't read those things. They don't think about those things. And that's why they never wanted us to have Black studies in major universities. And even the Black colleges, the Negro colleges, fought against teaching Black consciousness for years because they were safe institutions, and most of them were Christian-based institutions. And they taught what they call A&M, agriculture and mechanical, AI, agriculture and industrial. Those were Black schools. You know, they only taught that. They didn't start teaching social sciences until the 1920s. You know, so it's a dynamic that we have to sort of deal with. You know, Mshinda, you have any comment? You back yet, Mshinda?
Yeah, I am back. I'm here. I had to step off, but no, I don't have any comment because I think you covered it well. Is there a particular, like I said, I just dialed back in, but is there a question that you can lead me on to where I can maybe can provide an answer, or we done?
Well, you know, we were just talking about the to influence your behavior, you have to know who you are and where you are, and your history and your culture dynamic. Black culture is ritualization of Black existence, just like Christianity is the ritualization of Jesus. That's why they make up songs about Jesus. That's ritualizing Jesus. That's why they pray to Jesus. That's ritualizing Jesus. That's why they, and the word praise just means surrender. They used to just open their hands, and now they do all this and get on their knees. But if you study the history of the word prayer, it's just praises, giving praises to different people. And so my point is that from the standpoint of Black psychology, as we deal with it, Brother Mshinda, if you do not know who you are for whatever reason, you know, we look at people with dementia who can't remember their family members, and you know, it's not bringing up bad things, Brother Ernest, but you know, then there's amnesia where you can't remember nothing. You understand? Dementia is a whole new different thing. But the point is that many of us as Black people are being raised to be equal to white people and have their desires, their greed, their envy, their poverty. We used to have fluffs in our hair. We used to, women used to straighten their combs with ironing combs and things of this nature, rather than just accept who they are. They look like white people. And then we begin to behave like them. And so in order to have a Black psychology, you understand, even if it's hidden, that you don't act it out because of oppression and fear, you understand, but you know that you're different. I mean, you can look at our dance, our rhythm. That's what Malachi was talking about, the psychoblackology book about our rhythm and things of this nature. When we're going down, they're going up. Just look at American Bandstand versus Soul Train. If you can't see a difference between American Bandstand and Soul Train, you blind. You understand? Even though they had a Black dude on there named Famous, he went to Cal State Long Beach. He used to dance on American Bandstand. And the same thing with the song. You can't tell me a bunch of white songs that you listen to. You know, we listen to rhythm and blues because that's our experience. You understand? And there's a lot of groups that didn't make it because they wouldn't cross over. Michael Jackson crossed over. He not only crossed over musically, he tried to cross over physically. You understand? There's a whole new different dynamic with regards to crossing over.
Professor Rahh,
Yeah.
did you listen to the Beatles?
No, hell.
The Beatles was
I mean,
very
Black people, I
popular
saw
among Black
Temptation
people.
sang Beatles song I heard black people sing Beatles songs and things of this nature, but I mean, I'm gonna tell you something, man. Growing up in Watson, Compton was a blessing to me. Because, you know, I was just straight black all the way through my life.
I know that's
You understand?
right.
But I had to develop ethics and values to go with it. You can't just go through life and don't have principles where you treat everybody with respect and love. People used to think I was crazy because I gave good grades to black people at Cal State Long Beach. But that was my way of paying reparations to them. They didn't know it. You understand? Because 40% of the school was on academic probation. We only represented 7 to 10% of the school. So I mean the majority of the white people were just going to school because their parents kept paying and they weren't passing no classes. You understand? I mean, I saw all that. And I saw white professors giving white kids grades and downgrading black people. They didn't want me to see all that. But going to those meetings, those academic meetings, or academic senate and school meetings and deans, you learn the game. They're just graduating white people, just graduating them. You know, they ain't went a day of school. You understand? They just prepare up a transcript. You understand? You don't believe they do that. You understand? But you can't say that all these white people with all these degrees, doctorates, masters, and the society is still sick. And they still vote for Trump. What kind of madness is that?
Yeah.
You understand? Where you at? You know, what is it about? Just white supremacy? Is that the goal? You know, long we in power? And let's kick everybody out the country that ain't white or acting white or our ally. You understand? We can buy the Supreme Court. They bought the Supreme Court. They've intimidated all Congress people and Senate people. And they're talking about, well, Trump want to be a dictator. He's already a damn dictator. They're talking about want to be. You know, he got all elements of the institutions under his thumb. And the rich people behind him won't even speak out because they are the ones that's promoting him. Listen, they got the corporations that make the food. The head of those corporations, may it be Kraft, may it be Kellogg's, wherever, all those major corporations, giving them tax breaks. They determine the prices of food. When Democrats come in, they raise them. When Republicans come in, they can lower them and then make mint and make it look like everything's going good. Because what? They're getting tax breaks. So they can be lowered. I mean, it amazes me the cobweb of confusion and blindness that the people have. They don't even ask the right questions. You understand what I mean? They don't want you to know the right question. That's why you cannot even get the contributions to federal offices like Congress. You don't know who gave them money. You do not know. You understand? That you can't get a campaign filing unless you go through you almost got to get a subpoena. And same thing with the president. How you think Ice Cube didn't give Trump money? You think other black people didn't give him money? But you never know. You understand? Because they have what they call various groups that you don't have to give your identity. But if you as an individual give him some money, you have to put your name down, your address. So you hide in one of those financial groups that they have. I mean, it's a deep situation. It should be public financing of all public offices because it's a public office and open disclosure of where they got their money from. You understand? It's deep, brother, but I'll get into all of that later. I just want to, listen. Woo! it's just a beautiful thing when you can see through the system and be able to understand it. You don't get upset about it because you realize everybody says, well, the elections are rigged. The whole country's rigged. I mean, how are you going to have elections and leave the form a constitution for somebody else's land that you then took over and governed and put them on reservations and then act like you've been here all your life? That's a deep mental problem. To tell you something, that's like me coming in and taking your house and acting like it's my house. You understand? I mean, that only makes sense. But anyway, we'll talk about these things later. Rashaki, next week or tomorrow? Rashaki, you there? You on mute? Oh, the man stepped away. Rashaki, tomorrow?
I'm here. I'm just was getting together what we're doing tomorrow. We got Ahi's cousin coming on.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're basically doing the same. Well, it's not the same, exactly the same, but the same field. Let me show you, just in case somebody want to see how to come on here and hang out with us.
That's going to be interesting. All right.
Here
Tomorrow?
it is, right here.
Okay.
Ayanta Howell, MD. And the topic is mental health stigma in communities of color. So same topic, different component.
Okay.
So we have tomorrow. All right.
Ready, I'm
Okay.
ready. Let's go.
Right. All right. We'll be there tomorrow then.
All right. Each one teach one in Conscious Corner. Continue.
All right then. All right.
Guys,
Right
take
on, brothers.
All right.